Alright guys, welcome back to the Good View Woodworks channel. My name is Nathan, and today we are on video number 3 for the desk build. And I want to give a shout out to Total Boat. You can see I'm repping their hat today. They reached out to me and asked if they could help me with this project, and they sent us over some resin and hooked us up so we can finish this project. All right, let's get to it. All right, so the next step we have to do is we're gonna mix up an entire gallon. That's actually about 1.3 gallons of this Total Boat thick set epoxy. We're gonna go ahead and mix that together and pour it in on top of our desk here. If you haven't seen part 2 or part 1, I will link them up at the end of the video, so watch the video in its entirety, and at the very end I'll have some links for the first and second part of this video so you guys can see that. But the next step here is we're going to fill this form up with epoxy, and hopefully it'll take less than, I have about 2.6 gallons to use. We're going to fill this whole thing up and we're going to make it level with the top of this board here. This board right here is the tallest, and what I did was I used all different thickness boards. I did not plane any of them down. So I didn't use a thickness planer to plane these down, so that's why they're all uneven, but I wanted that look. So we're gonna fill this up with epoxy so you still get that look, but it'll be perfectly smooth across the top. All right, so here we go. We're gonna go ahead and mix this up. I wanted to point out that this is a 3-to-1 mixture, so if you weren't gonna do the entire batch, you have 3 parts epoxy, 1 part hardener. I'm just mixing this in a 5-gallon bucket. Makes it a lot easier. How much is in there? The hardener. Notice the hardener is much thinner than the epoxy. The epoxy was almost like syrup, and this is more like water. It's time to get to mixing. So guys, if you're going to be using a drill mixer to mix your epoxy, make sure you don't do what I did last time and have it on slow setting. If you have 1 and 2, make sure it's on 1, or you'll get this. Okay, here we go. Make sure you press your drill all the way to the bottom. Make sure you scrape the sides and the bottom of your bucket to make sure you got it all mixed. And we're going to mix this for about 2 minutes. I'm going to speed it up a little bit, so gotta be careful. All right, we're gonna go ahead and pour this. And the trick is, try to go as slow as you can. If you have some air bubbles in here, it helps eliminate the air bubbles. But we're gonna go ahead and pour. I'm gonna start right here in the middle of this diamond. Fill up this diamond over here, wherever it is. All right, as you guys can tell, 1 gallon, 1.3 gallons was not enough to fill this up. So we have another 1.3 gallons to go. But the cool thing is we have the diamonds filled up. That's what takes up the most of epoxy. So when you're doing this pour, you guys always want to make sure that your form is level. That's key. Make sure that your form is level. So that way the epoxy spreads out the way it's supposed to. Alright guys, if you have a low spot like what we have, or like a spot that's not absorbing the epoxy, like as you can see it right here is a spot, and right here it looks like a dip. You can take your finger and just dab it on the surface and it will break up the surface tension, so that way epoxy will flow in there. I got a bristle right here.
Use a different finger.
It's fine. It's the one I prefer to use.
Nice.
All right, so we're gonna go ahead and let this sit. It's degassing. If you can, I don't know if you can see it in the camera, but every once in a while you see a little bubble pop. Can you see it in the camera? Right there.
Yeah.
So what's happening is it's degassing, and some of the wood still has holes in it. And the cool thing about this thin epoxy, is it's so thin that you don't have to use a heat gun. The air bubbles will rise to the surface and pop because the epoxy takes a really long time to set. So this thing will be set in probably 3 days. It'll be ready to pull out of the mold. But that's the purpose for this thick set epoxy. If it is not thin like that, it takes a short time to cure. It'll get really hot and could crack, and you'll have bubbles in your finish. But that's what's really cool about this thin set stuff. So all right, so what we're gonna do now is we're gonna let this sit, and in 3 days I'll be right back with you to bust this thing out of the mold. Guys, I want to give a shout out to Total Boat Epoxy. I'm gonna go ahead and link their website down here at the bottom of the screen. They came in clutch. So I ran out of epoxy, if you saw in my last video, and Total Boat reached out to me and asked if I needed some more for my project, which I totally said yes, and they gave me just enough to finish my project. So I want to go ahead and give them a shout out too. And as well, I will link down in the description and below of this video a link so you can go buy this stuff, and also there'll be a discount code that you can type in to get 10% off of your order. All right, guys. All right, guys, we're back in the shop, and it's been a couple of days, so the epoxy is nice and hard. You can see we had a couple of air bubbles here, just a little bit down here, nothing crazy. They are all at the surface, so they will be able to be sanded out. But the cool thing is on this particular slab, I did not use a heat gun at all. All these bubbles came out, rose to the surface, and popped all on their own. So once again, I want to give a shout out to Total Boat and their epoxy. Seems to be working really, really well. But let's jump on into this thing and let's pull this out of the form, so that way we can get it into my office and get it prepped for its home. Oh, that wasp. I'm gonna get him. All right, let's bust this thing out of the form. All right, so the last step is to get this thing sanded down and put a finish coat of Stone Coat Countertops epoxy on the top. But before we do that, however, that'll be in the next video. Guys, thank you for watching. Do me a favor, hit that subscribe button. Also hit that like button if you like this video. And do me a favor and share it with a friend. So that's all we got for this video. Be sure to check the links down in the description. Go check out Total Boat Epoxy so that you can get some of that thick, that casting resin, the stuff that we used on this table. And like always, guys, thanks for hanging out with us.